Welcome back to another episode of Anthony Mates. I can't tell you how excited I am that the next guest is joining me. I have memories of slow dancing at the, at the youth club disco and passing hickeys to trademark who would know and singing along to that. I'm not even going to try and sing to that amazing song, Stay. Marcella Detroit, how the devil are you?
Oh, I am okay. Just glad to be here and grateful for everything.
Well, like,
Thank you.
thank you
How are
so
you?
much. Yeah, I'm really good actually. I mean, how could I not be? I'm talking to you.
Oh,
Um, I'm so grateful that you joined us. But before we get going, I want to talk. You have a new single out at the moment, and it's about a topic that I don't think really gets enough airtime.
mm,
And I think people often presume it to kind of be an old person's disease, which it's not.
oh.
And cure Parkinson's, let's talk about that. You've got a single coming out to raise awareness about that.
Yes. Well, this wonderful friend of mine named Ian Grant. I met him on Facebook. He is a longtime music manager and worked with some of the biggest bands in the business, starting in the 80s, like a band called Big Country. Um, we met during the pandemic online on Facebook. We were Facebook friends.
Sure.
And yeah, and he asked me after we got to talking, he was doing something for the NHS called Angels of the Nation. It was to commemorate those who had given their lives, sacrificed their lives, helping others during the pandemic. And
Yeah.
this was to recognize them and their families. And he asked me if I wanted to be involved with that. Um, and then we worked on a few other things together. I did an album, released an album at the end of 2021 called Gold, and he gave me some help with that. And then this whole thing with his disease with Parkinson's came up. He wrote this amazing lyric to a song called Think Loud. I didn't really know much about Parkinson's until I met Ian because I don't really know anybody else who has it. But people that have Parkinson's, other than the tremors, they have trouble getting words out and, speaking out and amongst like many, many other things. So I heard from a friend about this. I saw a friend of mine post about this on Facebook about the song. And then they sent me the song, and I was like, oh, God, I can't believe Ian wrote this. And from his own experience, I mean, wrote his own experience of what it's like to have Parkinson's and made it into a song with these amazing musicians. And I said, I'd love to be part of this.
Yeah.
So they sent me the track, and I sang on it and learned a lot in the process, about the disease. And like you say, people don't like to talk about it because they think it's not going to affect them, or it's only for old people, or I think people are also just afraid,
Yeah.
when disease, oh, we don't want to talk about
Yeah.
things like that. We're afraid of our own mortality. So we just kind of live in denial about it until maybe it hits somebody that we know or ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably my first awareness of it would be, Michael J. Fox,
Right.
and his journey with it. But then if I try to think of anybody else, I can't really think of anybody else. And that to me tells me that there just isn't enough talking about it quite
Right.
really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people are private too. People are private about their illnesses. Some people, with the advent of social media, want to tell you everything they're
Yeah.
going through at every minute, and whether you want to know or not.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need to know all the gory details, but if you want to reach out, I understand that. If you feel like you're alone in this and you just want some support, I get that. But you don't have to give me every freaking
Yeah.
detail.
And
Something.
here's a picture of my dinner as well to go with my today's thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. No. Oh, some things I just like to keep, private.
Yeah, fair enough. I actually, you just made me realize I had a bit of a moan on social media earlier. I tried to find Do you know, like just in the days, the Greasy Spoon Cafe, where you could get a pie and chips and a coffee, and Big Eileen would be there telling you all the gossip. You can't get it anymore. It's all fancy pastries and coffees with too many choices.
Really?
So yeah, so I had a bit of a social media rant. So you just made me think about that a minute ago. But anyway, I
All right.
digress.
I get it. I get it. I mean, it's things like that, that we miss. I love going to that diner that looks like, oh,
Yeah,
nobody would ever want to go in there, but then you go in there and you're like, oh my God, this is just like, my mom or my grandmother
yeah,
or auntie used to make, and it's delicious, just home cooked meals.
yeah,
Yeah, I miss
yeah.
that.
I really miss it. I really miss it. Anyway, that's by the by. I have so many things I want to ask you. But you first came to my realization. It would be in the 90s when your Shakespears Sister days, and in particular, I alluded to earlier, the song Stay, which was huge. I think it was 8 weeks at number one, isn't that right?
Number one for 8 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And that was with Siobhan from Bananarama.
Right.
I'm dying to ask, and of course you don't have to answer, but the relationship was a bit rocky. It would be fair to say with Siobhan. I know that you've patched it up again recently, didn't you? But I don't want to go into the ins and outs of that relationship. But the reason I want to touch on it is we have so many people dying to be famous these days and really want to be famous. And I always think it's interesting when I'm talking to people who've hit the heights to talk about the stuff behind it, the journey to getting there, that it's not the overnight success. It takes 20 years for an overnight success. And I'd just love to hear a bit about sort of your rose and thorn of the journey.
Oh God. Well, yeah, like you say, it's not overnight. It's not 20 years. In fact, you were almost quoting a song of mine unwittingly from my
Right.
Jewel album called Prima Donna. Never mind the 20 years, success is always overnight. I had a
Yeah.
friend of mine who knew that I was struggling and that I really wanted to be an artist in my own right. And I was working like nonstop, doing session work, doing my own albums, doing things for everybody else. But I wanted to do, working with Eric Clapton. And this was before well, actually, it was right after Shakespears Sister when I was no longer in the band and I was going to do my own album. So one day knowing all this about me and all the work that I did with her and for her, she said, you're a bit of a prima donna, like I'm
Oh.
a snob. And I'm like, what?
Ah,
What are you talking about? Well, you know how you wouldn't ride on the bus with everybody in the band to go from when Shakespeare was on tour in America, and
ah,
I would ride on the bus one day because the journey was quite long, and I had to be up early the next day and
sure.
sing on a very important show. And guess what? Siobhan came with me. We both
Yeah.
flew while the
Yeah.
band took the bus. So I don't know. It's difficult, and I was completely driven. I knew what I wanted to do in my life, and I established goals. But when you get to you get to a point where, okay, I achieved that goal, which is miraculous. How did I do that? It's
Yeah.
like magical thinking, which anybody would tell you, well, that's not real, but it is real. It is
Yeah.
real. You can manifest things if you want something bad enough. And I think you have to have the talent. But along the way, it was difficult. I was grateful because I was singing with Eric Clapton and doing lots of sessions and writing and stuff. But I always wanted to be an artist in my own right. But it seemed like I always ended up being a perfect foil for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess that's what I do. I like working with other people, but I learned along the way, not only to, what's important, and that is to develop your skills and work on them, put those 10,000 hours in,
Yeah.
like I feel I have. And I still feel like I'm learning. The minute you think that you know everything there is to know, then you really know nothing about how it works.
Isn't that so true? I mean, I've been kicking about media for way too many years now, and in lots of different guises. I mean, when I was 15, which was about 700 years ago, I started off as a model, and then I was a dancer, and then I worked in television and radio, and then I wrote for magazines. I'm now a lawyer, I'm a lecturer, and a columnist.
Wow.
You know, and it's this you've got to keep reinventing, you've got to keep learning, you've got to just keep going. And I don't think people, I think we say that, but I'm not sure that people always get it. I don't think they understand it. But something you said there, which is it's quite odd. You know that thing? I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, if I could lend you my eyes to see you how I see you. And what you said there about, you've kind of always wanted your own identity in terms of your career. When I think of Shakespears Sister, the instant picture is you. It's instant. It's an instant synonymous thing, and it's really interesting then that hasn't actually played out the way that I would have, because I would have just thought you are. It is you. Almost like though it's a duo and a band. It's yours. You know.
Well, it was not really mine. I mean, I
Yeah.
had to find my identity within that band. It was Siobhan's brainchild, the whole thing.
Right.
And I was put together with her through a mutual friend, this guy Richard Feldman, who produced our first album. And at first, I was like a hired hand, but then when it came to starting the second album, Mortally Yours, I was playing a more integral part in it. And the record company and the management were all like, and even her husband, Dave Stewart, was like, you guys should be a band. Marcy should be a 50% member. And,
Yeah.
and then that's when that happened. But, I had to find my own identity in that band. But it was okay. It was good for me. And I was very appreciative of it. We never could have realized the success, though, that we had with Stay. I mean, that was just a complete fluke. When we wrote the song, the whole album was a concept album about this movie that we wanted to buy the rights to called Cat Women of the Moon. You can watch it on YouTube. It's an hour long. It's a
I'm going
really
to.
cheesy B movie and made in America about these cat women who are really powerful and they're on the moon. And then the Earthlings come to visit, and my character falls in love with one of them who says he has to go back to Earth. So yeah,
Yeah.
we wrote that. My character, we were going to try and superimpose ourselves into it, but it proved to be too costly. And the label were like, no, we're not going to do that. We still yeah, we never could have dreamed that Stay would become so big. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it was just huge, and I, I don't think anybody who was alive in those days doesn't know every word of the song and hasn't got loads of memories. There's probably weddings, births, everything attributable
wow.
to that song. It's quite lovely. Another little connection that I have to you. You are the sister-in-law, I believe, of Jay Aston of Bucks Fizz. And
I
I
am.
interviewed Jay recently, who is she's just gorgeous, of course.
Yeah,
But could you be any more of a gay icon? I mean, please.
I know. I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
How lovely. I mean, whenever you have a family gathering, is it lots of singing and dancing or?
Yeah, but we live in different countries, so unfortunately we don't get to see Jay very much and her family and all our extended family that are over in the UK. Because my husband Lance, her brother, is here with me in America. We live in Los Angeles right now, but we might change that. We're thinking about coming back to the UK because America's gone completely mad.
Yep. Although I've got to say, the UK is definitely its slightly loonier sister right now, but there's
Oh, really?
oh yeah, it's crazy everywhere. But I mean, I love to go down the political rabbit hole, but hopefully things are about to change. I think hopefully fingers, eyes, and toes crossed. But what there is actually a lot of sort of reminiscent festivals and concerts. So now's the time. Come back, definitely. I know
Yeah.
that everybody would love to see you.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully. I mean, I was glad that Siobhan and I could reunite back in 2019 after actually it was 2018 when I was reached out to, but we could resolve some differences and create something new. So that was great. But I'd love to come back over to the UK really soon. It's my second home. All my ancestors are from that part of the world, Eastern Europe, really.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm on that side of the world, I feel different. I feel so alive, and life is just, I don't know, I'm adrenalized. I feel
Yeah.
about it. It just, all the cells in my body are going, they're like vibrant and alive. I don't know. It's incredible the way it makes me feel.
Yeah,
I
I
miss
totally
it.
get it actually, because
Part
I
of
mean
my,
you can hear from my accent I'm from Ireland, but my family on my father's side are English from a little seaside town called Lytham. And the first time I visited, my friend drove me in, and I kid you not, I felt like I could tell her what was going to be around the corner, and I had never been. It was the
really,
most familiar, spine tingling, skin tickling,
I'm getting
weird
chills now.
experience. Yeah, it was really, and I truly, people might laugh. I truly believe we take bits through the generations. They definitely pass down. I'm sure of it. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's gorgeous. So those coming up now. So we've got all this social media going on. We've got all these talent shows going on, which is great. I mean, I've met some great talent who've come through that way. But I do worry sometimes if you haven't done the time, are you ready for the prime? Are you can you do it? Can you hack it? What advice would you give to those kind of coming through now?
You know what? I'm not going to criticize anybody for,
Mm,
wanting to get out there, because now it is a way of immediate connection for people who are trying to make it up the ranks. But there is something to the fact of, of being prepared and being
yeah,
able to handle it when it does happen. Now everybody wants to be famous, and anybody can be famous. The more outrageous you are, the more attention you can grab, the more you're going to be noticed. It seems like that's one pet peeve of mine. I don't like, the whole idea of that, but it seems like to get instant recognition, you have to do something really outrageous, or just use these shows like The Voice and America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent, if that's still going. It
yeah,
seems to be, the way that it's done, but it's hard for those people to sustain a meaningful career after that. I don't know the percentage of people who have done, but I'm glad I came up in a time when I did, because I really had to work and prepare, and I really, put in the time and knew what I wanted and what to expect, if you will.
yeah.
So I think it's really different now. Like suddenly to be thrown in, the Coliseum with all the lions and subject to it all. I guess it takes a certain kind of strength as well and desire, but I would think it would be a lot more stressful. And you hear about some of these people who, I'm not saying they all do, but I've heard about many who have taken their lives because
Yeah,
it was too much to handle,
yeah.
not that people don't anyway, unfortunately, which is really sad. In this music business, if you base your self-esteem on what you do, then you're going to be in trouble and how successful you are.
That's really interesting because so I just tapped into one of your songs by accident, but I recently gave a TED talk,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all about perceived successes. So I insisted that my talk was going to be about my failures, actually, about the times that I went up and came back down again. But the essence of the talk was if what you do completely defines who you are, then you're in trouble because that can be taken away. So once
Yeah.
that's taken away, what are you left with? So you've got to have that other bit there. So that's really we're both tapping, we're both tapping into each other here. Um,
Yeah.
but it's so true. You've got to. I mean, you've got to eat, sleep, breathe any career that you're going to be a success at. It goes without saying, but you
Yeah.
mustn't let it become all that you are.
I know I've made that mistake, and I'm learning now, to when you get that taste of success, of course you want more. It's an
Yeah.
ego thing, or it's a fulfillment thing for me. But without gratitude for just simple things, that is not going to make you a happy camper in the long run. So that's something that I think is really important, being grateful for like the little things, like for every day,
Yeah. I remember actually having a little moment of realizing I'd become a bit of a brat. So we were kind of on tour, not as singers, but as presenters and doing like live makeovers and things. So we were on tour for about 3 years on and off. And so, you're staying in hotels all of the time and whatever. And I was booked into a hotel room, and I remember throwing a bit of not a tantrum, but not expressing my disdain for the room I'd been allocated. And about 30 minutes approximately after that conversation, I thought, you absolute asshole. Younger you would have been so excited to stay in any hotel. Oh my gosh, you're staying in a hotel. And now you're some sort of connoisseur about hotel rooms. It was clean. There was food available. There was a kettle. There was a double bed. There was a lovely bathroom. But it just wasn't good enough.
Good.
Because,
sign me up.
Yeah. And it was a real moment. I really, I just thought, oh, look what's happened to you. Spoiled brat,
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's, creature comforts. And if you're not getting what you need to help you perform at your highest level, then that's understandable in some cases. But I think it's really good to actually be that you were aware of that and caught yourself is a good thing.
Yeah, it was all there. I didn't need any more than what was there. It just wasn't as fancy as some of the others. It wasn't the 5-star. And that's what made me realize. I thought, when I was a teenager growing up in Northern Ireland, where everybody's killing each other and craziness, the thoughts of being on tour and staying in a hotel, wow, couldn't have even contemplated it. And here I am moaning about my 3-star room. So it was a real moment for me. But I wonder, have you ever had any of those moments where you thought, hey, wow, I'm famous and this is amazing, or oh dear, I'm becoming a bit of a celeb in inverted commas?
Good day, Daddy. Oh, I got spoiled pretty quickly, when I made up my mind I was going to do what I did. I mean, initially, I was driving in estate wagons and I'm talking in America, we call them station wagons. There's nothing luxury about traveling in a station wagon for 36 hours with 5 sweaty men on the way to a gig. But then, it kept getting better and better and better. And with Clapton, it was Lear jets and, our own private plane. It was a huge plane, but it was still a private plane. Sure. But I don't know. I never really. Okay, so we stayed in some luxury hotels, and then we were in a hotel in London in '85 when it was a really cold winter. The hotel was like a glorified Holiday Inn. It was nothing special. Yeah. But sometimes it's good to have those experiences because you realize what you need, and that's the most important.
If this world is wearing thin and you're thinking of escape, I'll go anywhere with you. Just wrap me up in chains. But if you try to go alone, don't think I'll understand. Stay with me. Stay with me. In the silence of your room, in the darkness of your dreams, you must only think of me. make it safe back to your own world. You'd better hope and pray that you'll wake one day in your own world. 'Cause when you sleep at night, they don't hear your cries in your own world. Only time will tell if you can break the spell back in your own